You're watching ADBR TV at Pacific 2019. I'm with John Conway and Tim Walmsley, the founder and CEO of BenchOn. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me.
Tim, how's PAC been for you?
It's been fantastic. Like the amount of people that are here and all the businesses, like everyone is in the one room and it's just been insane. Like everyone is just meeting, and it's really productive.
Fantastic. And tell us a little bit about your background.
So I'm a retired Army major. I left Defence in 2015 after working in artillery. So I did UAVs, air defence, pretty much everything in artillery except artillery. Yeah.
All right.
Then I went into defence project management and I was working on Land 19 in Capability Development Group.
Okay.
Before I jumped out into industry and worked with a small business called Pacific Aerospace Consulting, doing business development and strategy here in Australia. And it was during that time that I saw a problem in industry and decided I could solve it.
So what is BenchOn?
So BenchOn is a business talent sharing platform. So what we do is we allow companies to manage the peaks and troughs of industry with paid contracts for their staff in the troughs so that they can earn revenue in the downtimes and keep their staff on as part of the team rather than letting them go. And then in the peaks, when they need support for their projects from specialist people, they can find the hidden talent in other businesses rather than always dipping into the job seeker pool like everyone else.
So Tim, I think you missed a very important point there. Not only are you just a company, you're now an award-winning company. Tell me about your recent achievements.
Yeah, award-winning. Yeah, we just won the Defence Industry Startup of the Year 2019, which was amazing to get that type of recognition after being in the industry for 3.5 years.
It is a fantastic achievement, and I'd just like to maybe focus upon that for a moment here about the challenges of being a startup in a defence industry, a defence environment which is highly regulated, requires high levels of governance for very good reason. But to be able to start up into that environment, the barriers to entry are quite significant.
Yes.
Particularly if you're bringing innovation into that environment. What were some of the challenges that you faced in bringing a great idea into the defence environment as a startup?
Yeah, well, like you said, there's a lot of governance and there's a requirement for that, but defence is also a very relationship-driven industry. Everyone knows everyone and you tend to go to the people that you know. So luckily we had a good background in defence and we've always been passionate about defence industry because of my background. So we stuck with it and we got into defence, but there's a reason that we won a Startup Award 3.5 years after starting the company, and it's because it took a long time to work with all of the regulations and how do we support not only small business but enterprise at the same time with the same platform. So there was a lot of engagement with our early adopters and our pilot customers, and that's really how we've been able to survive through. So without those relationships and that support from early adopters, you've got a very hard chance of getting a new innovation in.
So you're getting just as much support from the larger prime contractors as you are the small and medium enterprises, or do you have a particular niche that you target?
In the early days, we were very SME focused. We want to make sure that we helped SMEs grow their business risk-free and actually keep their employees, which are their capabilities. So we started in the SME space, but we realized that there was a much bigger problem that our platform solved, which was talent visibility both internally and externally for large organisations. So we engaged with some primes and some large enterprises and basically said, well, how can we create features and products that best support you? Because that's where all the contracts are. The big companies get all the demand and the SMEs are the ones with all the oversupply of people. So how do we link them up correctly? So in mid-2018 we did a slight pivot and we developed 3 new enterprise products, and that's now launched in January this year, and the uptake from that's been amazing. And that's how we've brought on these large enterprises to support the SME market and link them up. Fantastic.
So it's not just been about just managing people, you put the tools and the technology behind that to allow it to be done efficiently, and I guess to recognize that talent needs to be prioritized, if you like. Everybody can't have all of the very best people. And I think the phase that we're going into now with defence integration, we're going to need more and more smart people.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And to have a tool that allows you to identify specific skill sets for specific roles is going to be particularly important.
Yeah, we all hear about the skill shortage in defence, and the skill shortage is very real, but with 30% underutilisation of our staff, I believe that if we maximize the productivity of all the staff in industry and we get everyone working towards what is essentially, it's in our best interest to make sure defence is the best and most productive that it can be. So if all of our staff are as productive as possible, we'll find out what our true talent shortages are, and then our education system can then focus on what are the skill sets we really need, not just the ones we can't see.
So building capacity through increased productivity of what we already have, rather than throwing more people at the problem thinking that's going to solve it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we see that all the time where we see recruitment agents going, look, there's no one out there, there's no one available. But yet we have companies that go, well, we have them and we're paying to keep them because we know how important they are. But at the moment, I don't have anything for them for the next 2 months.
And so what you're talking there about is the importance of intelligence, I guess, in terms of knowing the marketplace and knowing where the peaks and the troughs are. So without giving away your trade secrets, so how do you keep across the breadth and the complexity of the defence industry?
So I think the key thing about BenchOn is the fact that we're not just one industry. We break down industry boundaries and geographical boundaries. And I've actually filled defence contracts with a person that's in a completely another industry doing a completely different job, but they used to be a logistician in the army and they still had a security clearance, so therefore they were able to come back. The industry never would have found that person, but because our system automatically links the demand for that type of skill set to wherever that demand is across the country, that's where we find those gems.
And I guess with your defence, or more specifically your military background as well, and now the tools and the technologies and the processes that you're bringing with your award-winning company, we allows us, I guess, to in particular support the employment of veterans who we know have a very, very specific skill set, which is highly in demand, but often difficult to translate into the commercial environment. But it sounds like what you're doing is providing a bridge, if you like, into industry from the military.
Well, yeah, but our system focuses on the full skill sets of an employee, not just what they were hired for. Yeah. And that's really important when you're looking at vets, because you bring them in, and if you look at their whole skill set, they've got management, they've got leadership, they've got logistics, they've got project management, By looking at all skill sets and applying it where those skill sets are suited rather than what their job title is, that's how we start to get people more engaged and getting more experience, and therefore building defence capability.
Yeah. And just finally from me, because I'm sorry, we're hogging it a little bit here, but bring Andrew back in. But the thing that really I think we all share is an understanding, I think, of the challenges of a startup in the defence environment. And if you were to advise somebody who had an idea, who wanted to get into defence, what kind of tips would you give them?
Firstly, plan on it being longer than you thought.
About 5 times.
I can tell you about 2 years ago I had a very different thought of where we would be. But things do take longer, and that's because we're in a trusted position in defence industry, so people need to know that they can trust your service and who you are, and that you're doing the right thing and that you're adding value. So that is my recommendation. If you're coming into defence, it is an extremely hard industry to break into, but if you focus in on adding value, proving your benefits, then people will come along with you on the journey.
Absolutely, and the importance of trust. That's ultimately what it's about, in terms of not just trust from a human point of view, but then the systems that you're going to bring into defence have got to be trusted systems. And that's a theme I think we're starting to see developing, in particular with unmanned systems. It's all very well talking about autonomous unmanned systems. The key word, I think, which is we're going to start to sort of be built into that lexicon, is trust. Trusted autonomous systems.
And it takes time. I remember when I was in UAVs, we would see the UAVs aren't the ones breaking the rules. It's the human, the human pilots that are the ones that are making the mistakes. So people are there going, this system is trustworthy, but it takes time for people to accept it.
Yeah. I think we might have got off on a tangent here for a moment, because I'd like to bring in Andrew on this one, because it's something that we've been covering in some detail in the last few weeks, in particular last couple of editions of ADBR, is autonomous systems, and the concept of, if you like, the loyal wingman, which was launched earlier this year with Boeing Defence Australia. But I think what we're seeing now is that trusted wingman concept expanding into surface and subsurface roles. Andrew, I think it's something that we're going to take some interest in over the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Max Blinken touches on it in an article he's done in the magazine, and I think you touched on it in one of your stories as well. Trusted autonomy and Well, that's the loyal component, isn't it, of loyal wingman? You know that wingman is going to be beside you, whether it's an aircraft or if it's an unmanned ground vehicle or if it's a subsurface vehicle, that's going to be there. But as you're right, the operators are the keys, aren't they? The operators have to be cyber aware, be OSINT aware, and all this sort of stuff in order to be able to operate in a trusted capacity.
It's a really good example of a very specific niche in defence that requires a very highly skilled workforce. And that skilled workforce is in such a niche. Where do we find them? So we're working with a lot of UAS companies and providers on how do we create a community of UAS specialists so that no matter where you are, you can link into them. Because every company now has to look at unmanned, and in what they're doing, and how do we find the people that know these systems and how they work? And it all comes down to workforce management and finding those skills. So,
and with that workforce, do you foresee a challenge where we're sort of now rolling into a period of what they call continuous shipbuilding, where it used to be a big shipbuilding project and then a bust, and then a boom, and then a bust.
Yeah.
And so that workforce would transition from project management to blue collar to sustainment, and then a period of a lull, and then it would pick up again.
Yep.
So now that tempo is going to be fairly continuous at the top.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're able to cater for or assist with?
Yeah, no, firstly, I think it was a great step in the right direction. We've gone from a linear system to now all of a sudden a circular system where we can keep using these things. But aligning our availability and our workforce agility is still a tough thing to do, which is why our platform actually supports that better. You might have a project team and that team is continuously moving on, but someone has finished their task and they're not required for another 3 or 4 months. But we need them to come back. So we can't let them go with all their corporate knowledge. So let's put them somewhere else, continuing to earn money and continuing to get experience, and then come back when we need you. And I just think it provides the lubrication to make this continuous build work.
And so how do people get on your books, so to speak? Do you go out to a project that's winding up and look for people, or do people contact you?
You can sign up direct from the website. It's free for companies to sign up and to start receiving work as well as putting their own jobs on. So you can do that straight from the website. For large organisations that have won, say, a major program that have 1,000 suppliers that have expressed interest in working with them, we have specific products for them to create talent communities that are a subscription service, and we would tailor that model to however their project needs to work.
Okay.
So that's the enterprise side, but SMEs can sign up today for free and all of a sudden start receiving contracts that suit their business.
Fantastic.
It's a great story, Tim. And not surprising, you're an award-winning company.
You can keep saying that as much as you like. I love it.
But no, seriously, not least, the entrepreneurial spirit. You've shown that it can be done, and that certainly other companies who have a good idea. And I've got if you like, the courage and the energy and the willingness to go through the process, that it's a very rewarding thing to do, is to actually help at a sort of nation building level the management of manpower and come up with solutions that probably can't be identified individually within your organisation. So congratulations, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm sure we'll do it again.
Yeah, really,
Tim,
thanks.
I appreciate your time. Thanks for talking to ADBR TV.
Great, thanks guys. Cheers. Appreciate it.